For the whole month of February, we woke up at the exact same time every single day, no matter what, always. Simply to see if it would do anything or change anything or if we would learn anything from it.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't really seem like a very big challenge or a big deal when we thought of it, but this was a big one. This was pretty effective
Yeah.
for me. How did it go for you?
Well, uh,
Or
I,
what did you think before we did it?
well, I think as we talk through this, we're gonna have gotten different things out of this. Um, I think I was the one to propose this, and the reason was that I needed to fix my sleep schedule because it's always a bit of a tenuous thing for me. I always tend to just push the go to sleep time later and wake up at irregular times, and it has a tendency to get out of control. And I kind of have come to understand the power of a shared Google sheet where everyone has to log their thing in view of everyone else. It's really incredibly powerful for reasons I don't fully grasp. So for very selfish reasons, I wanted to con everybody into doing that with me to help me fix my sleep schedule. So it did 100%. Took a little doing. There was a few rough days in there, but for the most part, it got me to what I needed, and it works. I think that in the past, when I have gotten my sleep schedule into a fairly good place, it wasn't as good as I thought, or I wasn't quite as meticulous as I thought. I figure I've been going to bed at pretty good times. I've been waking up at pretty good times. But this month of having to be very religious about it and document it for the whole month, it really kind of shows you that, you know what, you're not quite as good as you think, and
Right.
there's a lot of little slips here and there that matter. And so it's gotten very good. In fact, well, we can talk about what we want to do in the future, but I don't set an alarm in the morning anymore. And I still have the lights that go dim at night and kind of cues to help me get to bed, but I'm pretty much able to go get in bed and then fall asleep within 10 to 20 minutes, which is amazing for me. I mean, that
Yeah, didn't you
is,
have a lot of like
oh my
insomnia
God.
issues before?
Yes, very, I won't say very bad. Let many people have it worse, but pretty rough. For there, it was not unusual for me to go to bed and then watch the sun come up 7 hours later. Like that was a thing that happened just every once in a while. At the very least, it'd be an hour or two on average, probably, for me to really get to sleep. So, I mean, again, it wasn't like it went from horrible to perfect right at the start of the
Mm-hmm.
month, because I've been working on this for a while, but the religiousness of this month really got that to the next level for me. And according to my watch, I've been getting an hour to 2 hours roughly of deep sleep every night, which is great. Really great. That's to me less appreciated because it's harder to measure, obviously, but that's a pretty major aspect of sleep that I think makes a huge difference. Anyway,
Right. You,
how was
you
it for
you may
you?
have just said it, but how many hours of sleep did you get a night? Roughly during
Oh,
this.
well, I said for deep sleep, it was an hour or two a night, which I've been
Like,
tracking with my watch. Total sleep has been about 8 hours of actual,
oh,
like,
okay.
asleep and then awake. About 8 hours, I mean 8.5, something like that. I've
Yeah.
been, you know, I haven't had a very constricted sleep schedule. It's not like yours, where you're getting up stupidly early. I'm getting up at 8:15, so as long as I go to bed at 11:45 or so, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, for me, what I've done in the past is try to get up early around 5:30, 6:30, whatever. That's sort of like my when I'm feeling really ambitious and
Hmm.
want to do a bunch of stuff in the morning. I usually try to aim for that time, and I think what typically happens is I'm able to do it for about 2 weeks really well, and
Mm-hmm.
then it starts to fall off. And I think after doing this, having to log it every day, I realized I think it's the weekends. It's
Mm-hmm.
every weekend you end up catching up on the sleep deprivation and sleeping in and staying up a little bit late trying to relax and stuff. And then it just kind of sets you back. And then Monday you have to get used to it again. Tuesday you're still getting used to it. Wednesday you're a little bit better. Thursday you're feeling the deprivation of sleep. Friday you're just done with it and you're ready to relax and then sleep in on Saturday. And then it's just this cycle. Like every single week you're constantly fighting
Yeah.
this this thing that you're trying to get used to. And it's just a constant uphill struggle. So doing this, it was very difficult at first to get through that first weekend or two. But after that, you just get into this groove and it starts going a lot smoother. And it felt way different than what I've done in the past, even though I didn't think that it was that different. I felt like I had done this before, but I really had not at
Actually,
all.
that's what I was trying to say there too, is that it feels like I've fixed my sleep schedule before, but having to really be explicit about it kind of showed that maybe I was 60 or 70% of the way there, but not near as much as it could have been.
I chose a really early wake up time, but I don't think, and I think that was almost like a separate thing. Like waking up early is its own thing, but waking up consistently was, I think, what we were really trying to explore in this. So I don't know. I kind of want to think about them separately because you chose like 8, which is much
So,
different than 5:30, but it's
yeah,
still, consistent time.
I wanted to bring that up too because it feels like I focused on one thing for this, which was I wanted a very consistent, regular sleep schedule, both to try and improve the quality of my sleep, but also to improve the quality of my wakefulness. And we've gone on about how vital your circadian rhythm is many times. And I was very happy with that. I mean, I feel it's very noticeable the difference in terms of my mood and mental clarity and all of those things. It's hard to overstate how vital regular sleep seems to be for me at least, and I think plenty of science shows it's probably just the case for everybody. Um, some people disagree. I think they're wrong. Science thinks they're wrong. Um, but you did something else also, and a few other people I think had similar experiences of. It sounds like you got up early enough to, I mean, one, you got the regular schedule part of it, so that's important. But then also you got up early and did things that were important to you before you started selling your time to someone else to do things that are important to them.
Right.
Is right? And
Yeah.
just judging by some of the reactions we got, it sounds like if there were a few people who really bought into
It's
this, thought this was pretty amazing.
it seemed like pretty much everyone. I don't think there's anyone that did it consistently and said anything or had a negative experience. If you did say something, but I don't think anybody
Right.
did.
Right.
And yeah, so the waking up early part was a huge aspect to why I liked this. I got to leave the house at about 8 o'clock, 8:15. So if I want to do anything substantial, I got to wake up pretty early. So at 5:30, that gives me a pretty good amount of time of my own time to just do the things that I want to do. And now I sort of got this whole like morning routine going on. So I wake up and within 20, 30 minutes I'm done with the morning routine, then it's right into all the practice stuff that I want to do. Oh, sorry. Um, phone was ringing. Oh,
What
anyway.
did you do with that time? I mean, what here?
So, well, I did a couple different things. I did a lot of drawing, um, working on stuff that I want to work on. I did that drawing challenge that I keep mentioning
Hmm.
in every single episode. I did a lot of writing. So, and we'll talk more about that at the end of the episode, but I did a lot of writing, which I've been getting into, sort of like journaling and whatever.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, mostly that. Just stuff that I really want to do, which I've always tried to do in the morning, but a lot of times I fail because I end up sleeping in.
Yeah.
But this was very freeing in a way where if I had kind of a bad morning, like I didn't get everything done I wanted to get done, or I was kind of slow or whatever, I always knew that I would get the chance again the next day. And that was really comforting. And after a week and a half or 2 weeks, I started feeling, even though I was a little bit more tired than usual because I wasn't sleeping as much,
Yeah.
I started feeling really in control, which is a weird thing to say, but I don't know. It's like I was really in control of my life. Like I knew that I'd be getting up at the same time the next day so I could do everything over again. Like every mistake that I made today, I can fix tomorrow. I was always learning from the day before it. And that was, it just, I guess it builds momentum. Like you just keep building and building, and it gets really exciting. You're just seeing like consistent progress.
Yeah.
And that was really exciting to me.
There's this one day I'm going to figure out how to put this into words better, but here's my rough stab at it. There's this thing that happens. We've talked about dilating your vision, right? And in some cases, it's a very literal thing of just actually seeing, going for a walk and letting your eyes kind of focus on the periphery and what that does to you and how that's actually very relaxing. And it's kind of the counterbalance to a tight cone of vision where you're really fixated on a single point. So there's the literal part, but there's also this somewhat more metaphorical thing where your mind is seeing more at once. And it's like you're not necessarily dilating your literal vision, although sometimes that is the case, but you're also dilating your perception to encompass more things. And it's kind of a hazy concept, but it's at the same time one of the absolute most important ones, in my opinion, for I know I bring this up every week, but like my endeavor to get into Grandmaster in StarCraft. That's one of the most vital things that I learned was how to practice that dilation of seeing the entire game at once rather than fixating on a single aspect of it.
Right.
So I think there is some elements of that in your daily life where when things are a little bit chaotic, your mental vision gets very tight. And let's say you just haven't been real happy with how things have been going, whether it's health wise or just your own interests and fitness, whatever it is. There's this feeling of you wake up and you're like, today I'm going to fix everything. And today I'm going to eat well and start whatever, losing weight or exercising and working on this project I haven't touched. And there's this aspect of it that's very narrow where you're really thinking of today. But if you can get away from that, and like you said, getting up early enough to where every single day you have this time that you're dedicating to something, and it starts and it ends, and you have to then think about what happens the next day. It's like your vision starts to dilate across a month or 3 months, and you start to see yourself along this timeline of I did this thing today and it fits into the big picture of what I'm going to do tomorrow and the day after and the day after. And maybe I didn't do super well today. I worked on some art projects or did some kind of practice thing and it wasn't quite as good as it could have been. But that it doesn't in the tight visual focus mode, you're kind of like, wow, I screwed up. Today sucks. But if you have that larger perspective, you're kind of thinking, oh, well, that means that tomorrow and the day after, I'm going to do it differently and it's going to be more beneficial.
Right. Things become predictable and reliable, and you can start making plans and know that you'll get to them because it's just this slow moving thing. Like you will keep moving. It's not like you had a really great day on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then you slept in for 3 days in a row, and then you didn't
Hmm.
have any time, and it's like that's really chaotic. But when you're doing this every day, whether it's a good day or a slow day or whatever, like it's still time that you got to spend on these things. That's really the only reason why anything like this is beneficial at all. Like waking up at a specific time every day, that helps biologically, but like why in the world would you want to do that? What's the benefit? Why is that good? Why would you want to do that? Well, it's because, at least for the early aspect part of this, it's so that you actually have some dedicated time to work on the things that mean a lot to you. Whereas before, it's sort of based on this willpower or luck
Hmm.
if you get to work on them at all. So doing something like this guarantees you that time to work on the things that mean a lot to you. So that
And
was really important.
I think it helps change your perception of that time too. I mean, it makes it to where the thing that you do in that 2 hour chunk of time, you're gonna do it again tomorrow and the day after and the week after and everything. And so anything you do doesn't, it no longer feels like a success and failure, or oh,
Right.
I did it. I got up and I think I learned a lot, or I think I did some good work or whatever. It feels more like you're a scientist who's just figuring out what the way is, where you
Right.
do
What works and
something.
what doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, it doesn't hurt you because you think, "Oh, okay, that didn't work. I'll do this other thing tomorrow." It's like you suddenly see the timeline as one piece rather than this
Yeah.
kind of obsessive view of a single moment.
That's been one of the biggest problems, or the most persisting problem I've had, like since the day I was born, is tying my identity to whether or not I win or lose at this single thing right in front of me.
Hmm.
So doing something like this, being in a regular routine, helps me back up and see it as a whole. So yes, exactly.
There's kind of one other thing that I have started to feel about it, where when you're in chaos mode, where you have some idea of what you want. You know, I want to get up at a certain time and do all these things that are rewarding and beneficial to me long term. But it's sort of day to day in terms of whether or not that happens. Like when you're in chaos mode, um, it it takes effort and willpower to make those things happen. And it's not that it's zero effort or willpower after you've done it for weeks, but it starts to get closer to zero, right? Where if you're
Yeah,
just
yeah,
getting up at the same time every morning, it starts to just become the thing you do, and it's not something you have to think about a whole lot. I mean, your body and mind physically adapt to it, where
hmm
you're. I mean, like I said, I just stopped setting an alarm because I just wake up at that time. I don't. It's not a grind; it just happens.
So now, it used to be where the alarm would go off and I'd hit the button and turn it off, and like, God damn it, I have to wake up. I have to leave sleep and I have to walk out of my room and get ready for the day. Ugh, I hate
Yeah.
everything. I mean, I think that's pretty typical. But now the alarm goes off, whether or not I'm extremely tired or not. My first thought is, oh my God, yes, I get to drink coffee. And so I get really excited about getting that cup of coffee
Mhm.
because, like I've said before, I set it the night before and it's ready. I set it 15 minutes before I get up, and then I can smell it when I wake up, and I get really excited to just go get the coffee, and then the whole routine is just in motion
Right.
instantly, and it's just the best thing.
Yeah, I
So
think
I
it's
actually get excited now instead of dread it.
right. And I think there's something really critical there where it's like if your plan is to lean on willpower for everything, that's a bad plan. I'm and I've even read some research on this where I hope I can find the papers or whatever it was I was reading, but they were looking at people who are really successful and what we all consider to be highly driven and motivated people, and they were trying to get at, are they just do they have extra willpower? Are they just really good at doing the hard stuff? And it turns out, for the most part, no, not really. All the stuff that we see as being really difficult, they don't. They just kind of go, oh yeah, it's just the thing I had to do. They aren't white knuckling their way through it all. And I think there's something really important there. You know, if you, well, society kind of, I think, overvalues people who wake up really early. To me, that's great, but you know, you might be an early riser snob, but to me, if
No,
you're sleeping
I
for the same chunk of
no,
time, what's the difference?
I have to be. Well, for one, being around when the
Yes.
sun comes up is really nice. I mean, it's really cool to see the sunrise. It just feels so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other reason why I'm getting up early is because of work. I mean, I'm not being a
Right.
snob about it. It's
Okay.
that I have to get up early.
Uh, okay. Fair enough. I don't
Sorry,
want to
go ahead.
lump you in, but I do feel sometimes a little judged that you know, whatever.
Sleep until 8. Or,
Yeah. Sleep in
that's
till
not,
8 when
but
the
I
sun has
think that's
only just
fine.
risen. Yeah. Okay. I think it's fine too. What was my point? Um, I there seems to be y- the plan, your plan to the in regards to the willpower thing, like I think should be long term to make it to where getting up and doing the things rather than just again being in chaos mode should not require willpower at all. Like that
Right.
is, I think, the end point of any objective there is to where whatever I do, personally, I think both of us and really everybody who did this, it seems like, sees a lot of value in that of that consistent. I wake up at this time and I do these things, and you kind of choose things that you think are valuable and all of that, right?
Right.
I think the end goal there is not to pump up your willpower to where you can just do it every day. It's to where it doesn't, it's not really a factor anymore.
Right.
It's just kind of what you do.
People were saying in the Discord that they were excited to go to sleep so they could start the routine in the morning, which is to me the perfect removal of willpower. Like now you want to do it. Like there
Yeah.
is no forcing yourself to do it. You
Yeah.
want to do it. And in a lot of ways I feel the same way, or I started to feel the same way, is that I'm excited to get up in the morning because there's a lot of cool things I get to do. And I've built my whole like morning, well, this whole thing naturally encourages you to form a morning routine. Like if you're waking up at the same time every day,
Right.
that's the first step of your routine. So what's the next thing that you need or want to do? And then you
Mhm.
just slowly start stacking things. And that's what I also realized is that the time you wake up is like the thing that holds all other habits together. I mean, in a lot of circumstances,
Mhm.
because it sort of determines when you feel good or when you don't feel good or whatever. It affects the rest of the entire day. So if you have this super consistent daily thing, then everything else can kind of fall right into place, and you don't have to reshift things every single day.
Yeah, I like what you said about control. Like that is such a important and not acknowledged enough feeling or perception, where just the difference between you feeling like you are steering yourself
Yeah,
versus, oh my god, I gotta start work, I'm in a rush to go and I have to, it's a completely different mental space to be in.
there's a lot of people or a couple people in the Discord talking about how it was really hard or basically impossible for them to wake up a little bit earlier at a specific time, and I felt that same way or have felt that same way many times before. And I think my curve is if I can force myself with the willpower or brute force, whatever, get myself out of bed for 4 days in a row, about 4 days in a row, then it starts to feel much better and it starts to feel good. But those first 3 4 days can
Yeah,
be very tough.
actually that about lines up with what I found. You know, it's
Yeah.
somewhere in that 4 or 5 days range where it starts to feel about right. Um,
I think it helps to make it a little bit easier on yourself. Like, just realize that going, jumping back 4 hours is not going to be easy. So maybe over the next 4 or 5 days, you slowly start moving it
yeah,
back, or whatever. Just try to make it easier on yourself, knowing that it's a process. It's not something that's easily gotten
right.
with just one day.
Okay, so here, slightly different tack here. A couple weeks ago, we were talking about this idea that we really like and want to pursue of challenges and experiments and everything. Um, so we identified these three specific categories, right? There's experiment, where you just do something to see what happens. There's challenge, which is to kind of push you into something new. Uh, you know, test your limits. You know, reach a new threshold of what you've done before. And then there's habit, which is kind of the long form state of something. The habit is just, this is the thing that I do every day and I don't think about it anymore, and I'm going to do this until I'm dead.
Okay.
How would you classify this one for you? And obviously
That
it's not this perfect clear cut. Some things are kind of challenge and then kind of experiment and whatever. But where would you put this? And what do you think it ought to, what do you want to do going forward?
that is a wonderful question, and I've been asking myself that this whole time. I don't have an exact answer. There's a couple problems that this doing this creates. One obvious one is sleep deprivation. Waking up, especially this early. If I had a different life, this would be a little bit different. If I didn't have to, go to work at exact times. If I had a little more leeway in my schedule, I could sleep in a little bit more, but that's just not the case. So with me, my biggest problem affecting me today and this whole time is sleep deprivation. Like, I've had way less sleep.
Yeah.
Like, I feel in control of my life and things are getting done, whatever, but man, there have been some really tough days. And
Yeah.
people keep telling me, "Oh man, you look so tired. What's wrong with you?" Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's a major issue, and I have to figure that out. I don't think this is sustainable long term, like to do it every single day. So what I might do, and what I think this is a big one. Like, waking up at the same time every day. This has been like a key that unlocks a huge, very important door or a new level in the pursuit of just being a better human or something. Like,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is substantial. But yeah, so I would like to keep it around, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, I want to keep this up and I want to keep doing it. But I'm pretty sure if I keep doing it, I'm just gonna die. Like, I can't
Right.
go this long without sleeping. So I'll probably I might push it back to like 6, add an extra half hour. Maybe I could play around with sleeping until 6 or 7 on weekends. I don't know, like just move it 1 hour for the weekends or something. I don't know. I'll have to mess with it,
Yeah.
but for the most part, I'm going to try to turn this into a habit that I do until
I mean, an hour might be kind of a lot.
right. So
You
maybe
know,
just 30 minutes is enough. But
I don't
something
know
has
that.
to happen.
Right.
I've also the past couple weekends I've been able to take like a nap or two during the day of like half an hour, and that makes a huge difference.
Hmm.
But I can't normally do that.
Yeah. Yeah. 40-hour a week jobs really limit our ability to do cool things.
Yeah, I think I don't want
That's it.
to do the blame society thing, but like, this is something that really works, or it seems to really work for everyone who did it. It it
I
really
mean,
seems to be this crazy thing,
if
and it's
society has
just
it wrong, then they have it wrong. It
I
doesn't.
I think they got it wrong. I I really do. I think our whole like society and culture is doing a lot of they're doing a lot of things that go completely opposite to how humans actually should work. And I think that humans typically would probably get up at the same time every day, and that's just kind of how they lived.
Mhm.
Whereas now we, work like crazy on 5 days and then, stay up super late and screw it all up. But
Yeah.
I just think society's got it backwards a bit, and I got to figure out how to counteract that. It's like the problems with this thing aren't this thing. It's these external
Yeah.
issues which you have to take into account, like your work schedule and
Right.
your social life and everything.
Right. I mean, at the same time, if that's what you got to deal with, that's what you got to deal with. So we figure out the best thing you can do,
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging the circumstance. Um,
Well, what about you? Is this something that you want to do long
well,
term? Or?
okay. So, like I said, I think this was a little bit different for me. I wasn't quite as religious about it. I got really hardcore a few days into it because I was it wasn't working at first, and I had to get really strict.
Well,
But
you
then,
weren't working at first, right?
yes, or
Okay, just
what,
wondering.
whatever. Me and the challenge were not seeing eye to
Okay,
eye.
yeah, yeah.
But then I got very strict. Had to kind of get over the hump a little bit of, I
Yeah.
don't really want to get up at this time, but I'm going to no matter what. And it kind of sucked for a few days. And then it just settles in where it's okay. Now I'm falling asleep consistently and waking up consistently. But then like I said, I sort of stopped setting an alarm and just let myself wake up at the normal time. And there were a few times where I'd kind of lay in bed for a little while, and I kind of viewed this as more of the long-term habit type of thing, where my thinking is like I could do this forever. If this was the plan for the rest of my life, great. I mean, no problem. In fact, I actually think what I'm going to do is move my wake up time earlier because I'm falling asleep more quickly and I'm getting
Yeah.
better quality sleep. So it starts to feel like I'm kind of waking up before 8:15 now, which is amazing. I can't tell you how amazing that is for me and how I really never thought I'd be saying those words. So that's awesome. So for me, I like this could easily be a long-term habit, and I think I'm going to tweak it a little bit. We got to figure out daylight savings time, which is so stupid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
I
it's
know.
one of the, just everyone in the world knows it's stupid, and yet we all just can't seem to figure it
Can't we
out.
just meet in the middle?
Yeah, just
You
pick a
know?
time. I don't what
Right.
ugh. A lot of people die when you set the clocks back, like in car
Okay.
accidents and stuff. But okay, it's stupid, all right? That's all I'll say. It's stupid. And we got that coming up in a few weeks, at least in the US. I'm not sure where it is like for the rest of the world, but we got to figure that out. So I might try to walk the time back a little bit and then
Yeah.
whatever. Anyway, this is like I kind of treated this as habit of a thing that I could do forever, and I can like 100%. And I might tweak it a little bit, but I'm very, very happy with it. And I don't want to have it shift around on weekends or anything. I think for me, I'm pretty sensitive to kind of disruptions in that cycle, and keeping it pretty
Hmm.
strict is, I think, the way to go for me. But I also kind of missed out a little bit on that challenge new thing to your life aspect, where I pretty much just got up and then I do my morning routine of walk the dog and drink
Right.
coffee and all that stuff and then start work. So I didn't really have that other factor that I think you did and some other people did. So
Yeah, I realized that is sort of like a separate thing.
yeah, I
Um,
really think it is. And we made this pretty kind of general at the start, right? We just said pick a time, wake up, that's it.
yeah.
There wasn't really a whole lot of, this is what you must do. So it's
But
really cool that we just kind of discovered that.
it seemed like at the beginning, and this is totally fair because we didn't like set aside any rules or really even think it through.
Right.
But at the beginning, it seemed like everyone, including you, were really thinking about it like, oh, well, I stayed up a bit late, so I'll just sleep in the next day. It's not that big of a deal. Like, this is a challenge,
Yeah.
but we don't want to,
Yeah.
you don't want to lose any sleep over it. But my thinking was the complete opposite. We talked about sleep and we know how important it is, but I want to explore this other idea of prioritizing the schedule and the routine
Yeah.
and this like regularity to your life. Like what's it like if you prioritize that? One thing I found when we started prioritizing sleep is I started sleeping in more and I started feeling way better. But I also started losing everything that I cared about because all of a sudden I didn't have any time. And anytime I felt a little tired,
Mm.
I'd just go to sleep or I'd sleep in. And so I started getting kind of lazy. And not that I'm saying anything bad about sleep, but there's this other side of like discipline
Yeah.
and sticking to a schedule that I think is equally important. And so I wanted to explore that, where you get up no matter what, even if you're really tired and want some more sleep. Not that you can do that long term, but that's just an aspect that I really wanted everyone to kind of
Yeah.
latch onto.
Well, and it's almost certainly the case that life is full of trade-offs, and
Yes.
you know, you're kind of having to figure out what's the most optimal way to approach something where you're doing better in one sense and worse in another. So that's just probably doesn't work well for uh social media engagement and whatnot of one cool trick change your life.
No, no, no. This did change the way I look at things, but this
Right.
isn't perfect. Like I said, I had to sacrifice a lot. Like I'm going to bed early on the weekends, and I don't want to. Like I want to just stay up and watch
Yeah.
some movies or something, but I'm like, nope, I got to go to bed. Otherwise, the next day is gonna suck because
Right.
I won't get
Yeah.
any sleep. And yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's days where I was really tired and I didn't feel good, but yeah, it was a big trade-off, and there was some definite big sacrifices. So no, I'm not saying that this is foolproof. It's
Well, yeah. So here's the one uh kind of universally good free win, better with no trade-off aspect of it for me, which is being very, very regular with the sleep and wake. And there are other factors too in terms of sleep. Again, for me, I have a hard time with it. Always have. So I gotta, the room has to be cold. It has to be dark. It has to be quiet. I gotta be pretty careful about what I do before bed. There's other things too, right? But I do think
right.
this is the most important thing. But going to bed, waking up at very consistent times means that my, what do they call it? Uh, Time delay until sleep or whatever is shorter, where it takes
Okay.
me less time from when I get in bed to falling asleep. When it's really good, it's pretty quick, 10 minutes
Yeah.
or less, which is unheard of for me. Unheard of. Average
No.
I would say is probably an hour and 15, something like that before, which like that's free time. I mean, even if you don't like just ignoring
Yeah.
anything else, if I can get to sleep in 10 minutes versus an hour and 10 minutes, that is 1 hour of life that I get for free. Just boom, done. Like there's no trade-off there. That's incredible. And then there's also just the quality of sleep. Like I said, deep sleep is a little bit hard to measure. You can use fitness devices. They estimate it. They don't actually have electrodes hooked up to your brain. So it's always hard to say exactly how much. But I have noticed that even on days when I get a decent amount of sleep, 7.5, 8 hours, 8.5 hours, if the deep sleep is really short, which can happen for all kinds of reasons, I don't actually feel that great. Like I slept
Mm-hmm.
plenty, but I didn't really get good deep sleep, and I don't really feel all that awesome. And I see that in the numbers when I'm lifting or and that kind of stuff. So
Right.
there's something there too, where just getting 2 hours of deep sleep at night really affects me, and that's again like there's not a trade off there. If I can just optimize things where I'm getting good deep sleep, that's just better.
When we had, or when we did that talk about sleep or the just sleep episode,
Yeah.
I was talking about how I got to sleep really quickly, like every night. Like I lay down and
Mm-hmm.
I'm right to sleep. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And it's great that you finally got there too. During this challenge, I actually, ever since we've had that sleep episode, I've been having trouble with it because my schedule's been more sporadic and I just
Yeah.
haven't been able to get to bed on time. Actually, it probably has everything to do with me going back into the office and working every day versus working from home where I had some extra time. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, so I've kind of come away from that a bit and had
Yeah.
been having some pretty big issues trying to get to sleep. But yeah, that if you can get to the point where you fall right to sleep within a few minutes of laying down, it's like magic. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's possible for everyone. It's just I don't know. How do you think you got to that? Is it just the
Um,
being regular with it?
I think, I mean, I am someone who has, like, again, spent most of my life with a lot of struggle with sleep. And I would have said a year ago, I would have said, you know what? It's just, I don't think it's for everybody. Some of us just aren't good at it. And certainly there are like medical conditions that you can have that prevent that, and people could be further along the spectrum than I am where you have even more trouble sleeping. But we are all mammals in the end, and we are kind of programmed for pretty similar things, I think, in that when the sun goes down, there's not much to do. You're supposed to go to sleep and get tired, and there's all kinds of physical triggers for that and everything. Anyway, that's a vague answer to your question. um I was able to get there too, and it again, it's not always perfect. I still have kind of relapses here and there, but
I
it's
also don't want to
pretty good.
jinx it, so
I
I don't
know,
want
I
to jinx
know.
it. I
Like
don't.
tonight,
Yeah,
I'm gonna be up all freaking night going,
yeah,
"What
yeah.
happened?" But it's trended towards pretty good. I think there are lots and lots of factors, and they all come into play. And here's the biggest thing that I think is, this is what really makes it hard, is that you when you do something, you look for an effect, and if you get an effect, you're like, "Sweet, it worked. That's the answer." uh if you do something and you don't get an effect, you get the opposite feeling of, wow, that didn't work. And when you need to do something for a month, or maybe not even a month but a week or two, and then you start to get an effect, and it's a subtle effect, it's a 10% improvement or a 5% improvement, that makes it really tough. It's hard to even tell with all the other noise going on that really is a valuable thing for you to do.
Right.
So it just makes it hard. And I think sleep is one of those things where there's lots of things that affect it. It can be different for different people, at least in some ways. And so you go to bed at a certain time, when you wake up and you feel like crap because you didn't sleep enough, or it's not your normal wake up time, and you're like, wow, that sucked. And then you do it
Right.
again and it still sucks. You're like, wow, this is not fun at all. I really don't want to do this. And that is just the type of thing that's very, very hard to accept as, like, yeah, this is the thing I got to do. But I think that sleep is kind of like that. So for me, there's lots of factors, and they're not just based on my own experience, but this is also stuff you can observe. And again, I
Mm-hmm.
highly, highly recommend Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. Great book on sleep. He's a sleep researcher, and he kind of backs up a lot of these things, or all of these things, really, in terms of them being studied and being really important. But I think the most important thing is that regularity of sleep schedule. If you're sitting there oscillating by a significant amount every day, it really messes up your circadian rhythm. And we kind of talked about this last week, how there's like these two sides of it, of your conscious mind and your unconscious, like, physical processes that have to kind of meet in the middle. And it's, if you're too messed up to where I go lay in bed and I'm thinking, I gotta relax, I gotta meditate and be calm and let sleep happen, and so I'm sitting there just meditating, trying to focus on my breathing, and I don't fall asleep for an hour, forget it. Like, the anxiety is
Right.
going to go up. I cannot sit there and meditate for 1 solid hour waiting for my brain to finally
Right.
shut off. There's
And then
gotta be.
you start associating the meditating with anxiety, and
Right,
then you
right.
start hating that, and that just makes it worse. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you have to kind of have this agreement between, okay, brain, I'm going to lay down and I'm going to be calm, and the lights are going to be dim and it's going to be cold, and you're going to go to sleep in 10 minutes. And, like, I can offer you 10 minutes of meditation. You got to meet me halfway and, like, turn off by the end of that, or whatever.
Right.
Anyway, so the regularity of sleep is really, really key. And there's other things that are kind of attached to that, like being able to relax and calm your mind and not get sucked into this vortex of existential dread. There's other things that are a little bit simpler, like just making sure the room is really cold and making sure it's really dark and quiet and all that stuff. But they all fit together, and they don't do anything in one night. It takes a while, and it kind of sucks at
Yeah.
first, and eventually you get there, and it's very, very worth it if you can get there.
Yeah.
Okay, have we
Well,
dedicated enough of this podcast to sleep, or should we keep going?
I'm trying to think.
We could rebrand as just
The sleep podcast.
sleep advocates. Yeah,
Yeah, we could talk a little quieter and a little
um,
calmer.
we could do ASMR.
No, we're never doing ASMR.
No,
No.
okay, that's probably for the
Okay.
best.
So you plan on doing this forever?
Yeah, I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna tweak it a little. Weirdly, I'm
I
actually
gotta
gonna
tweak
tweak
mine
it to
too.
be,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna tweak it to be a little bit earlier. I'm still not. I really like the idea of just waking up when I kind of wake up. I think that's great, but I'm a little
Yeah.
afraid that that's gonna slip over time to where I'll just sleep in too much or wake up too early. So
Right.
I might just like start being religious whenever I need to just really keep it like a hard line. You know, if I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna wake up at 7:45 every morning, then maybe if I start to feel like it's drifting, I'll just be more religious about that for a little while. I don't know. I want to keep it very close, but I also really like that feeling of just waking up when I wake up.
Right. Yeah. I gotta figure out the leeway that I can have and when I can have it, to where I'm not falling off, but I'm
I mean, to me, if you
still.
could, maybe move it to the right a little so you are getting more sleep and try to,
Yeah.
I don't know. I am a little jealous of that experience that you had and a lot of other people had of having that really valuable dedicated time every morning to something that you care about. That's super appealing to me, and I
Do you
wasn't
feel
doing
like
that.
Do you feel like you could use that, or
Yeah,
do you feel like
yeah,
that's something that?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, you
Okay.
you
Because
were hinting at how important like a regular schedule is every day, and I'm on board with that idea.
okay, because in my mind, you are on a regular schedule, but
Well, I
okay.
am,
Well,
but I okay. We can get into this maybe soon, but I don't really have this a sacred time of this me doing a thing that
yeah.
I really care about. Like I said, I've been getting up and doing my morning routine and then just going to work. And then
Yeah.
after work I'll get into whatever I want to get into, but
Well, and that slot in the morning has changed a bit. Like some days it's one thing, some days it's another, but it's always, stuff that I really want to do that's not necessarily urgent or needs to be done, but
yeah.
that, I really want to be working on. But this is the thing that I started preaching in the Discord a while ago, is that uh, someone was talking about how they never really get to work on their game. Dems was,
Yeah.
if I get this wrong, I'm sorry, but I think he was talking about he really wanted to work on this game. He was creating a game,
Mhm.
but like he started this full-time job, and at the end of the day, he's really tired and really worn out, so you can't really get anything substantial done on
Yeah.
this personal pursuit that he has. And that's exactly what I ran into for a long time. Is I'm trying, like, you go to work all day, you come home, you're exhausted, but if you ever want your dreams to come true, you gotta
Yeah.
brute force your way through them. So you just keep trying day after day to do this, but it doesn't work because your brain is fried, your
Yeah.
energy's gone, like it just won't work. So I started flipping it and doing the important stuff at the very beginning of the day and prioritizing that over everything else. And if I'm a little tired at work or whatever
Yeah.
at the rest of the day,
Screw 'em.
it's fine. But the me stuff, the most important stuff, I get to, every day.
Yeah.
At least that's been the goal, is to prioritize that, and it changed everything. I mean, I'm not saying it's that one trick that'll change your life, but it was that one trick that changed my life. So I started kind of suggesting that to him, and a couple other people had done this too.
Mhm.
And it looks like he he's very excited about this. He flipped it to start working on it in the morning,
Yeah.
and he said it
Yeah.
changed a lot for him. So I'm really excited about that. So I want you to also do that because it works really well.
Yeah, no, I missed that part, and I'm jealous, and I think that I'm gonna do that. Where you talked about the ridiculous dream board
Yeah,
last
has anyone
episode.
done that, by the way? Because I just want to stress how it's so, I can't even explain it. I can't say that it's magic because it's not magic. I really want everyone to
Yeah,
try that, and I haven't heard of anyone doing it at all.
so
So
it felt like such a lame thing when you talked
I
about it.
know it seems like a lame. Did you do it?
No, but it's
Come.
no, but okay, hold on. All right, I'm telling you right now how I'm going to, and how it no longer feels so lame to me. I I'm confessing and coming clean here, in that
Okay.
I actually, here's what I want to do. I'm jealous of that, this other thing that you and some others got out of this challenge, of this sacred valuable time that you spend on just something that you value, and I haven't
Yeah.
really got that part of it. So that's what I think, that's how I'm going to change this, in that I'm going to move it a little bit earlier, not too much. I would like to keep my 8 hours of sleep, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to iron out a couple little wrinkles in the morning routine and everything, and then I would like to block out a chunk of time, maybe an hour, and spend that, in that very valuable, non-fatigued, good piece of the morning before I get sucked into other stuff. I want to spend it on something that I think is really valuable and interesting to me personally. And it's not work, it's not for somebody else, it's not,
Yeah.
doing dishes or something dumb. It's that. And as part of that, I'm gonna make the dream board and figure out what my biggest, wildest dreams are.
I'm
And then,
telling you,
I
it
know.
it I know it just sounds wishy-washy and stupid, but it like hacks into your subconscious a bit. Like in some weird way, it allows you, your brain can experiment with these weird thoughts and these, I don't know, just these weird things that you want to do. You just sort of enter into this part of your brain that you haven't, that you're afraid to go into. It's like a safe, and that safe holds like your identity of who you are. I know you're rolling your eyes and
No,
whatever, but just
I'm
listen
not
for a second,
I'm not really rolling
okay?
my eyes.
It's like a safe in your head that holds your identity, and there's a couple little slips of paper that have like, I want to be a good artist, or whatever, like on there, and another piece of paper is probably like, I want to be a good musician, or whatever has become my identity is locked in this thing, and you never change it and you never revisit it. It just stays there, and it sort of like fields every decision that you ever make, and you don't really access it at any time. But if you make the stupid, ridiculous dream board, sounds really stupid. If you just do it for some reason, your brain like allows you to experiment with those types of thoughts, like these really core beliefs that you have that are so old and foreign to you that you don't even realize they're there anymore, and just starts to play with them, and they become like malleable again. And your decision making starts to change. It's really weird. Just do it.
Okay, look, again, I think you're right. I'm admitting that you're right. And the fact that I'm kind of low key afraid to do that makes me think that you're sort of onto something.
I was also really afraid to do it. And it's like, why the hell would I write this down? It's so stupid. I'll never do it. I don't want to do it. Just write it down and make like a big list of all of these ridiculous things that you kind of want to do just for fun. You don't have to show anyone, but
Oh,
just do it.
I won't. Don't worry. No,
But yeah,
okay.
it's tough.
I'm gonna do
Go
that,
ahead.
and then I'm gonna put it. This is what my plan going forward after this month is. I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna dedicate an hour before anything else other than just the normal little wake up, walk the dog routine. Dedicate an hour to something that fits into the secret vault of identity dream board thing. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Approved. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. And
Okay.
you probably need to sleep a little more.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big goal of mine. But yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, how about we wrap this up um, with
Well,
some
what are we
announcements?
doing
Have we
for
said?
March?
Okay.
Because that's exciting.
The plan for March, and I should get some stuff figured out here. Um, this has always stuck with me for some weird reason. I mean, for years. I read the book Dracula a long time ago, and one of the characters, I'm going to read it as soon as I can pull up the quote. One of the characters is writing a letter to another character.
And this is part of the book, right? Like you're reading
Yeah, yeah,
letters,
yeah.
and that's kind of how the story is told.
Sorry, I have to re. My phone's like, it's too late. You can't be using it. I'm like, shut up. I'm just let me use it. Okay. So here's the quote, and then we'll get into what the challenge is. This is Mina writing a letter to Lucy, and Mina's husband is named Jonathan. So hopefully that'll
Okay.
make a little more sense. Sorry, my phone is broken. Okay. He and I sometimes write letters in shorthand, and he is keeping a stenographic journal of his travels abroad. When I am with you, I shall keep a diary in the same way. I don't mean one of those 2 pages to the week with Sunday squeezed in a corner diaries, but a sort of journal which I can write in whenever I feel inclined. I do not suppose there will be much of interest to other people, but it is not intended for them. I may show it to Jonathan some day if there is in it anything worth sharing, but it is really an exercise book. I shall try to do what I see lady journalists do, interviewing and writing descriptions and trying to remember conversations. I am told that, with a little practice, one can remember all that goes on or that one hears said during a day. So this always stuck with me because I wanted to see if that was true. I was thinking, well, what if I did write down a bunch of conversations or observations I made during the day? Like, would my memory really get better? And so for years, on and off, I've kept journals and written things, and I think it makes a big difference, but I don't want to make any claims or anything. So recently I started journaling again and writing down a lot of thoughts I have and this type of thing. And I want everyone else to experience the same thing that I'm experiencing. So the challenge for March is to get yourself a journal or a little sketchbook, Blake notebook or whatever. These are the ones I use. They're like pocket-sized moleskins that are plain and really easy to write in. Get yourself one of those, something similar, and just write about. This is probably a little vague. Help me out, but write about either the day that you just had, conversations you've had, or observations of a place that you visited, like a room you walked into. See if you can recall what that room is like. See if you can recall a conversation, recall how you felt in a certain situation. So I think the plan is sort of to do it at the end of the day, spend however much time you want to on it. But every day you try to recall things that happened earlier in the day. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. Okay. So the main kind of key things are there's kind of two I guess two ways to that you could be writing things down. One is sort of the forward looking perspective where maybe at the start of the day you say I want to do this and do that, and it's almost a to-do list type thing, and that I think is not what you're after, right?
Right.
This is more of a retrospective of here's what happened, here's what I recall from this event, here's this significant moment that happened today or whatever, and
Yeah.
the intent is kind of memory and reflection and almost synthesis of what actually happened.
Yeah, but it could be as deep as, all the feelings you felt on that and what you think should happen and whatever you want. But it could
Okay.
also be as simple as like, I ate a banana today. In which trash can did I throw that banana peel away?
Okay.
like whatever. It
Okay.
could be that simple, but it's just to start thinking about memory. Like, what do you remember? What do you not remember? Why do you remember that? Like, just start paying attention to that. Does that
Yeah.
sound good?
Yes, it does. So no hard rules then. It does there's no fixed length. You could do a
Yeah.
sentence or two, or you could do pages and pages if you want, but it needs to be every day. It needs to be written down. Are you okay with me typing rather than writing in a journal? I'm not saying I
No,
necessarily
no, no,
will.
no. I think it needs to be handwritten, and we can talk about the reasons why, but I
Okay, all
really
right.
think it should
I'll
be
I'll
handwritten.
accept that. I'll accept that.
Okay,
All
I'm
right.
glad you accept.
Okay.
And then, okay, and then also for our book club, we will be reading Dracula
Cool.
for the month of March, and I was reading this blog post about how memory is this huge theme throughout Dracula, and I haven't read it in a long time, but while reading it, think about memory and start analyzing what's going on in the story and how it pertains to memory.
Okay.
So, month of March, memory,
I
and Dracula.
I also read Dracula very, very, very long ago. But I'm super excited to read it again. It's probably been 20 years, and I love just the memory and just thinking about how utterly vital that is to us and our identity and everything we do. So I'm thrilled that you
Right,
picked this for us. All right, so that's March. That's what we're doing. We're reading Dracula and journaling.
right. Our self help podcast will now be reading Dracula.
All right,
So,
that's kind of
yeah,
cool, right?
I
As
think it's
far
pretty
as
cool, yeah.
all right, all right.
Anything
Any
else?
closing thoughts? Is that where we're at?
No, I think that's pretty good.
Well, also okay. Let us know what your experience was with the sleep thing, and
Yeah,
I mean specifically what the experiment results are in terms of what it revealed to you, and then also what you would like to do going forward. You know, in terms of long term rest of your life habit.
yeah.
Okay.
On any platform, YouTube comments are great. Discord, join our Discord, talk in there, or podcast review, or whatever, or email, anything. But I would love to hear what people thought about this.
Yeah, me too. This was a really fascinating one for me. All right, we'll see you next week.